The car pulled up slowly in front of the massive building. 8-year-old Lily pressed her nose against the window, staring up at the tall columns and glass doors. Her stomach did a little flip. This wasn't like any place she'd been before. "We're here, sweetie," her mom said softly from the front seat. Lily's dad turned around with a warm smile. "You ready?" She nodded even though her hands were shaking a little. Inside her backpack, she could feel the weight of her sheet music. She'd been carrying it around all week, looking at it so many times that some of the pages had gotten a bit crumpled at the edges. The regional youth piano competition. That's what the big banner outside said. Lily had seen it from 2 blocks away, hanging between those tall columns like it was announcing something really important. And maybe it was. At least that's what everyone kept telling her. Getting out of the car felt like stepping into a different world. There were people everywhere. Kids in fancy clothes walking with their parents. Some carrying instrument cases. Others holding folders that looked way more organized than Lily's messy backpack. A few wore blazers and ties. Lily looked down at her simple blue dress. Her mom had ironed it that morning, making sure every crease was perfect. But next to all these other kids, she felt small. Really small. "Come on," her dad said gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Let's go inside." The lobby was even more impressive than the outside. The ceiling seemed to stretch up forever, and there was this huge chandelier hanging in the center that sparkled like a million tiny stars. Lily's shoes clicked on the marble floor and she tried to walk quietly, but every sound seemed to echo. Everywhere she looked, there were teenagers. Tall ones, confident ones, kids who looked like they'd been doing this their whole lives. One boy was doing finger exercises in the air, his hands moving so fast they blurred. A girl nearby was humming scales, her voice perfect and controlled. Another kid was flipping through sheet music, nodding along like they already knew every single note. Lily was 8. Most of these kids looked at least 15 or 16. Some might have even been 17 or 18. "Mrs. Chen?" A woman with a clipboard approached them, smiling. "And this must be Lily?" "Yes, that's us," her mom replied. The woman checked something on her clipboard. "Wonderful. Lily, you'll be competitor number 43. Your performance slot is in about 90 minutes. You can wait in the green room backstage or you're welcome to watch some of the other performances in the hall." 90 minutes. That felt like forever and no time at all, both at the same time. "Can we watch for a bit?" Lily asked quietly. Her parents exchanged glances, then nodded. Of course. They found seats in the back of the concert hall and Lily's breath caught in her throat. The space was enormous. Rows and rows of red velvet seats sloped down toward a stage that seemed impossibly far away. And there, in the center of that stage, sat a beautiful grand piano. The lights made it shine like something from a dream. A boy who looked about 16 was playing. His fingers flew across the keys and the music that came out was incredible. Fast and complicated and perfect. Lily watched his hands trying to follow the patterns, but they moved too quickly. When he finished, the applause was loud and long. The judges at their table down front scribbled notes on their papers. "That was amazing," Lily whispered. Her dad squeezed her hand. "You're amazing too, honey." But watching performance after performance, Lily wasn't so sure. Each kid seemed better than the last. There was a girl who played something classical and beautiful that made half the audience wipe their eyes. A boy who did this modern piece with so many notes it sounded like rain on a roof. Another girl who played with so much emotion that Lily forgot to breathe. These weren't just kids who were good at piano. These were kids who lived and breathed music. Kids who probably practiced for hours every single day. Kids who had fancy teachers and went to special music schools. Lily had started piano lessons when she was 5. Her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, was nice and patient and taught lessons in her living room, where her old cat would sometimes walk across the piano keys in the middle of practice. Lily loved music more than almost anything, but she'd never imagined herself here in a place like this, competing against people who seemed like they were already professionals. "How much longer?" she asked her mom. Her mom checked the program. "About 20 more minutes, then we should head backstage." 20 minutes. Lily counted the seconds, watching each new performer take the stage. The judges sat at their table, 3 of them, all looking very serious and important. One was an older man with gray hair who wrote notes constantly. Another was a woman with glasses who nodded along to the music. The third was a younger man who sometimes smiled at the really good parts. These were the judges. The people who would decide if Lily was good enough. The people who had probably heard thousands of kids play piano, What would they think when they saw her walk out there? This little 8-year-old between all these teenagers. Time to go backstage, her dad said gently. Lily's stomach dropped. She grabbed her backpack and followed her parents through a side door. The backstage area was dim and crowded. Kids were everywhere, some pacing, some sitting quietly, some doing last-minute practice on digital keyboards set up in the corners. Lily Chen, a man with a headset, called out, "You're number 43. You'll be on in about 15 minutes. Just wait here." 15 minutes. Lily found a chair in the corner and sat down. Her backpack felt heavy on her lap. She could hear the muffled sounds of someone playing on stage, the notes distant but clear. Beautiful. Perfect. Her hands were really shaking now. "Hey." Her mom knelt down beside her. "You don't have to do this if you don't want to. We can go home right now. No one will be upset." Lily looked at her mom's kind face, then at her dad standing nearby, looking concerned. They'd driven 2 hours to get here. They'd paid the entry fee. They'd been so proud when she qualified for this competition. But more than that, Lily loved playing piano. She loved the way the keys felt under her fingers. She loved how music could make her feel happy or sad or excited or peaceful. She loved learning new songs and figuring out how all the notes fit together like pieces of a puzzle. She was scared, really scared. But she also knew she'd regret it if she left now. "I want to try," she said quietly. Her mom smiled and kissed her forehead. "Then you try. Just do your best. That's all anyone can ask." The minutes ticked by. Kids went on stage and came back, some smiling, some looking disappointed. The man with the headset kept calling out numbers. 40, 41, 42. "Number 43, you're up next," he said, looking right at Lily. This was it. Lily stood up on wobbly legs. Her dad gave her a thumbs up. Her mom squeezed her hand one more time. "Go show them what you can do," her mom whispered. Lily walked toward the stage entrance, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Through the curtain, she could see the bright lights, the huge audience, that beautiful piano waiting in the center of everything. She took a deep breath and stepped forward into the light. The stage lights were bright. Really bright. Lily had to blink a few times as she walked toward the piano, her shoes making soft sounds on the polished wood floor. She could feel hundreds of eyes watching her, maybe thousands. The audience seemed to stretch back forever into the darkness beyond the lights. She sat down on the piano bench and immediately realized her feet didn't quite reach the pedals properly. A stagehand quickly came over with a special extender, adjusting it until Lily's feet could rest comfortably. She heard a few quiet chuckles from the audience. Not mean ones, just surprised. She was clearly the youngest person who'd performed all day. Lily looked down at the keys. They gleamed under the lights, black and white, familiar and comforting. She'd been playing on keys like these for 3 years now. They were her friends, her way of talking when words weren't enough. She placed her fingers on the starting position and began to play. The first piece was one she knew by heart, a classical composition that Mrs. Patterson had taught her 6 months ago. At first, Lily's fingers felt stiff, nervous. But after a few measures, something shifted. The music started to flow. She forgot about the audience, forgot about the judges, forgot about being scared. There was just the piano and the melody and the way her fingers knew exactly where to go. When she finished the first piece, there was warm applause. Not as loud as what the teenagers had gotten, but genuine, encouraging. The second piece was harder, more complex. But Lily had practiced it so many times that her hands moved almost on their own. She added little touches, soft parts and loud parts, exactly where they felt right. When the final note rang out, the applause was louder this time. She even heard a few people say wow from somewhere in the audience. Lily looked toward the judges' table. All 3 were writing notes. The older man with gray hair was nodding. That had to be good, right? She stood up to leave the stage, relieved and proud. She'd done it. She hadn't messed up. She'd actually played pretty well. But then something unexpected happened. "Excuse me, young lady." The older judge's voice came through the speakers. He was standing now, holding a microphone. "Please stay there for just a moment." Lily froze. Her heart started racing again. Had she done something wrong? The judge smiled. "We have something special today. Before we break for the intermission, we'd like to demonstrate the bonus challenge piece. This is completely optional for all competitors, but we think it's important for everyone to hear it first." Bonus challenge piece? Lily hadn't heard about this. The judge continued talking to the audience. This year, we've included an advanced sight reading challenge. It's a contemporary composition, written specifically for this competition. None of the participants have seen it before. It combines classical technique with modern jazz elements, and honestly, it's quite difficult. There was movement at the judges' table. The gray-haired man, who Lily later learned was named Professor Williams, walked up onto the stage. He sat down at the piano, right where Lily had just been sitting. "I'm going to attempt to play through it," he said with a humble smile, "though I'll admit I've only looked at it myself a couple of times. Let's see how it goes." Someone handed him sheet music and he placed it on the piano stand. Lily moved to the side of the stage watching. She was curious. This man was a professor, a real pianist, someone who'd probably been playing for 40 or 50 years. Professor Williams studied the music for a moment, then placed his hands on the keys. He started playing. And immediately Lily could tell something was special about this piece. It wasn't like the classical music she usually heard. The rhythm was tricky, almost bouncy. The melody jumped around in unexpected ways. The left hand had to play these complicated bass notes while the right hand did something completely different. But then, about 30 seconds in, Professor Williams stumbled. His left hand missed a note. He kept going, but a few seconds later, his fingers tangled up in a fast section. He stopped completely, laughed, and shook his head. "Well," he said, still smiling, "as you can see, this piece is genuinely challenging. The syncopation in the bass line is particularly tricky." People in the audience laughed good-naturedly. It was actually kind of nice to see that even a professional could mess up. It made Lily feel better about her own nervousness. Professor Williams tried the beginning again, but the same section tripped him up. After another attempt, he graciously gave up. "I think I've demonstrated just how difficult this is," he said, standing. "Perhaps one of my fellow judges would like to try." The woman with glasses came up next. "Judge Peterson," someone whispered. She was a piano teacher at a famous music school in the city. She'd been playing piano since she was 4 years old. She sat down, studied the music even longer than Professor Williams had, and began playing. She made it a little further. Her technique was beautiful, her fingers moving with practiced ease. But when she reached the section with the complicated rhythm changes, she too began to struggle. The tempo got wobbly. She missed a few notes. She made it through to the end, but it wasn't smooth. It wasn't the kind of flawless performance everyone had been hearing all day. When she finished, she looked at the audience and smiled. "As you can see, this is not an easy piece. We encourage students to try it if they feel confident, but there's absolutely no pressure. It's meant to be a learning experience, not a requirement." The third judge, a younger man named Mr. Chen, held up his hands and shook his head. "I'm not even going to attempt it," he joked. "I know my limits." Everyone laughed. Professor Williams took the microphone again. "So here's how this works. After the intermission, any competitor who wishes to try the bonus challenge may do so. You'll have about 5 minutes to study the music before you play. Successfully performing this piece will earn significant extra points, but again, it's completely optional." We've seen today that even experienced pianists find it challenging. The audience murmured with interest. Lily could hear people talking. "No way anyone gets through that. Did you see how hard it was? Even the judges couldn't play it properly." Lily walked backstage in a daze. Her parents were waiting for her, both beaming with pride. "You were wonderful." Her mom hugged her tight. "So proud of you, honey," her dad added. "Thanks," Lily said, but her mind was somewhere else. She kept thinking about that piece. The bonus challenge. She'd watched both judges attempt it, seen exactly where they'd struggled. The tricky rhythm, the bass line that didn't match the melody, the sudden tempo changes. It was complicated, sure, but something about it had sparked in her mind while she was watching. She could hear how it was supposed to sound, could almost feel where the notes should fall, even though she'd only heard it played twice and neither time had been perfect. "Let's get some water and a snack," her mom suggested. "You did your part. Now we just wait for the results." But Lily wasn't thinking about the results of her regular performance. She was thinking about that music, those tricky passages, that rhythm that had stumped 2 professional pianists. During the intermission, Lily sat in the lobby with her parents, barely touching her juice box. Other competitors were talking excitedly, some debating whether anyone would be brave enough to try the bonus piece. "I heard it's worth like 50 extra points," one teenager said. "Doesn't matter if you can't play it," another replied. You just embarrass yourself. I bet no one even tries it. Lily listened to all of this, her mind turning over and over. That melody. Those notes. The way it was supposed to flow but kept tripping up the judges. She could see it so clearly in her head now. Not just the notes, but the feeling behind them, the mood, the story the music was trying to tell. Intermission's over, her dad said gently. Want to head back in and watch the rest? Lily nodded slowly, standing up. As they walked back toward the concert hall, she made a decision. It was crazy. It was probably impossible, but she was going to try that bonus piece. She was going to play the music that had defeated the judges. The second half of the competition moved slowly. At least it felt that way to Lily. She sat between her parents, watching performer after performer take the stage. Some were brilliant. Some made small mistakes. But none of them attempted the bonus challenge. After each performance, Professor Williams would ask the same question into his microphone. Would you like to attempt the optional bonus piece? And every single time the answer was the same. A polite shake of the head, a nervous smile, a quick no thank you before hurrying off stage. Lily couldn't blame them. She'd seen how hard it was. Even the judges couldn't play it right, but that piece kept playing in her head. Over and over, like a song stuck on repeat. She could hear the melody, feel the rhythm, sense where each note should land. It was strange. She'd only heard it twice, and both times it had been played incorrectly, but somehow her mind had filled in the gaps, had understood what it was supposed to be. Number 68, the announcer called. That concludes our competition performances. We'll now take a short break while the judges tally the scores. People started standing, stretching, talking. The competition was over. All the slots had been filled. Everyone had played their required pieces, and no one had been brave enough to try the bonus challenge. Lily's heart was pounding. If she was going to do this, it had to be now. Before they announced the winners. Before it was too late, Mom, she whispered, tugging on her mother's sleeve. Yes, sweetie? I want to try it. Her mom looked confused for a second. Try what? The bonus piece. I want to play it. Her dad, who'd been checking his phone, looked up sharply. What, Lily, honey, that piece is really difficult. Even the judges couldn't. I know, Lily interrupted, but I can hear it in my head. I know how it's supposed to go. Her parents exchanged one of those looks. The kind adults give each other when they're not sure what to say. Lily knew what they were thinking. She was 8. She'd never seen this piece before. Professional pianists with decades of experience had failed at it, but her mom's expression softened. You really want to try? Lily nodded. Okay, her dad said slowly. Let's ask if it's even allowed. The competition slots are all filled. They made their way down to the judges' table. Professor Williams was discussing something with the other judges, papers spread out in front of them. He looked up as they approached. Yes, can I help you? Hi, Lily's mom said. My daughter performed earlier, number 43. She's wondering if it's too late to attempt the bonus challenge. All 3 judges looked at Lily. Really looked at her. She felt tiny under their gaze. Professor Williams checked his papers. Ah, yes, Lily. You played quite beautifully earlier. He paused, studying her. The bonus challenge is optional for all competitors who performed today, so technically no, it's not too late. But I should tell you it's a very advanced piece. Even sight reading the first few measures is difficult. I'd like to try, Lily said quietly. Judge Peterson, the woman with glasses, leaned forward. Sweetheart, did you see when we tried to play it? It's really challenging. There's no shame in not attempting it. I know, Lily said, but I want to try anyway. The judges looked at each other. Mr. Chen shrugged. Well, we did say any competitor could attempt it. If she wants to try, I don't see why not. Professor Williams nodded slowly. All right. Give us just a few minutes to finish these calculations, then we'll call you up. You'll have 5 minutes to study the sheet music before you play. Is that acceptable? Yes, Lily said. Thank you. As they walked back to their seats, Lily could hear whispers spreading through the audience. People had noticed the conversation at the judges' table. Word was getting around, did you hear? That little girl is going to try the bonus piece. The 8-year-old? No way. This should be interesting. Poor kid. She's going to be so embarrassed. Lily tried not to listen. She closed her eyes and focused on the music in her head, the rhythm, the melody, the feeling of it all. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Williams's voice came through the speakers. Before we announce the competition results, we have one more performance. Competitor number 43 has requested to attempt the bonus challenge. The audience stirred. People sat up straighter. Conversation stopped. Everyone wanted to see this. Lily, please come to the stage. Her legs felt wobbly as she stood up. Her mom squeezed her hand. You've got this. Just do your best. Walking up to the stage felt different this time. The whispers were louder. She could feel people's curiosity, their skepticism. An 8-year-old trying what professional pianists couldn't do? It seemed impossible. When she reached the piano, Professor Williams was already there holding the sheet music. He knelt down so he was at her eye level. Lily, he said gently, I want you to know there's no pressure here. This piece was designed to be extremely difficult. Many professional musicians would struggle with it. If you start and decide you want to stop, that's perfectly fine. Nobody will think less of you, okay? Lily nodded. Good. He handed her the sheet music. You have 5 minutes to study it. Take your time. He walked back to the judges' table, and Lily was left alone on the stage with the music in her hands. The hall was so quiet she could hear her own breathing. She looked at the sheet music, really looked at it. The notes danced across the page, complicated and dense. There were so many of them. The time signature changed multiple times. There were dynamic markings everywhere, telling her when to play soft and when to play loud. The bass clef and treble clef seemed to be having completely different conversations. It was, objectively, a very difficult piece. But as Lily studied it, something clicked. The music she'd been hearing in her head matched what was on the page. Not the stumbling, uncertain versions the judges had played, but the real version. The version that existed in the composer's mind when they wrote it. She could see it now. The pattern, the logic behind what looked like chaos. The rhythm wasn't random. It was telling a story. The melody wasn't just jumping around, it was dancing. The bass line wasn't fighting with the treble, they were having a conversation. Her fingers tingled. She wanted to play it, needed to play it. Time seemed to move strangely. The 5 minutes felt like both forever and no time at all. She studied the music, her eyes moving across each measure, her mind already hearing how it should sound. 30 seconds, Professor Williams called out gently. Lily's heart raced. This was it. In a few moments, she'd have to actually do this. Actually try to play something that had defeated pianists with 40 years of experience. What if she failed? What if she embarrassed herself in front of all these people? What if her fingers couldn't move fast enough, or she lost her place, or she forgot which note came next? But then another thought came, a quieter one. What if she could do it? What if that feeling in her chest, that certainty that she understood this music, was real? Time, Professor Williams announced. Lily set the sheet music on the piano stand. The pages looked crisp and clean, untouched by nervous fingers. She positioned them carefully, making sure she could see everything clearly. The audience was completely silent. Lily could see her parents in their seats, her mom's hands clasped together, her dad leaning forward. She could see the other competitors watching with wide eyes. She could see people in the back rows standing up to get a better view. Everyone was waiting, watching, wondering if this little girl was brave or foolish or both. Lily placed her fingers on the keys. The familiar cool smoothness of the ivory calmed her nerves just a little. She'd played on keys like these thousands of times. They were her friends, her voice. She took a breath, then another. She looked at the first measure of music, saw the notes, heard them in her mind. Her parents held their breath. The judges leaned forward. The audience waited, and Lily began to play. The first note rang out clear and confident, then the second, then the third, and within 3 seconds, everyone in that hall knew they were witnessing something extraordinary. The first 3 seconds changed everything. Lily's left hand found the bass notes with perfect precision, not the stumbling, uncertain rhythm that Professor Williams had struggled with. not the wobbly tempo that Judge Peterson had produced. This was clean, clear, exactly right. Her right hand joined in, weaving the melody over the bass line like they were two dancers who'd practiced together for years. The syncopation that had tripped up the judges flowed from her fingers as naturally as breathing. Professor Williams's pen stopped moving. His mouth opened slightly. Judge Peterson took off her glasses, leaned forward, and put them back on again, as if she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Mr. Chen's eyes went wide. But Lily didn't notice any of this. She was somewhere else now, somewhere inside the music. The notes on the page weren't just black dots anymore. They were alive. They were telling her a story, and her fingers knew exactly how to tell it back. The piece moved into the second section, where the tempo shifted. This was the part where Judge Peterson had started to lose control, where the rhythm had gotten confused. But Lily felt the change coming. She adjusted smoothly, her hands moving faster, the notes cascading like water over rocks. Someone in the audience gasped. Quietly, but in the silence of the hall, it was audible. Lily's fingers danced across the keys. The difficult passages that had seemed impossible when the judges attempted them now sounded effortless. But it wasn't just technical skill. Anyone watching could hear something more, something deeper. She was interpreting the music, adding tiny changes in volume, letting some notes ring longer than others, putting emotion into passages that, when the judges had played them, had just sounded like a difficult exercise. This didn't sound like a child trying to play grown-up music. This sounded like someone who understood what the composer had meant, who could hear what the music was trying to say and translate it perfectly. The middle section arrived, the part that was supposed to be the hardest. The time signature changed. The key changed. Both hands had to do completely different rhythms at the same time, while also managing sudden dynamic shifts from very soft to very loud. Professor Williams had given up before reaching this section. Judge Peterson had barely made it through, missing several notes. Lily played it flawlessly. Her small hands stretched to reach the wider intervals. Her fingers moved with impossible speed through the runs. The complicated syncopation between left and right hand sounded like it was easy, natural, meant to be. People in the audience started glancing at each other. Silent conversations happening in raised eyebrows and dropped jaws. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. An 8-year-old girl who'd never seen this piece before was playing it better than professional musicians. But it was happening. Right in front of them, Lily's mom had tears streaming down her face. Her dad was gripping the armrest of his seat so hard his knuckles were white. Neither of them could look away. The teenage competitors who'd been so confident earlier sat frozen in their seats. Some had their hands over their mouths. Others were shaking their heads in disbelief. They'd been playing piano for 10, 12, 15 years. And this little kid was doing something none of them could imagine doing. The piece moved toward its climax. The music got louder, faster, more intense. This was where everything came together, where all the different themes and rhythms that had been introduced earlier merged into one powerful moment. Lily's fingers flew. She wasn't even looking at the sheet music anymore. She'd memorized it in those 5 minutes of study, or maybe she was just feeling it, letting the music guide her hands instead of the other way around. The notes rang out crystal clear, each one perfectly timed. The dynamics built and built, getting louder and more passionate. The piano sang under her hands, the melody soaring above the driving rhythm of the bass. And then, just as suddenly, it got quiet. The piece called for a soft section near the end, a moment of calm after the storm. Lily's touch became gentle, delicate. The notes fell like snowflakes, barely audible but perfectly placed. This contrast, this ability to go from powerful to tender in an instant, was something even experienced pianists struggled with. It required control, maturity, understanding. Lily had all of it. The final section approached. The piece ended with a challenging run, a cascade of notes that climbed up the keyboard, getting faster and higher until it reached one final, decisive chord. Lily took a breath barely noticeable to anyone watching. Her fingers positioned themselves. And then she played the run. It was perfect. Every single note clear and distinct, even at that speed. The crescendo built exactly as the composer intended. Higher and higher, faster and faster, building tension until finally, Her hands came down on the final chord. The sound rang out through the hall, rich and full and triumphant. Lily held the chord, letting it resonate just like the music indicated. She kept her hands on the keys until the sound faded completely into silence. Then she lifted her hands and placed them gently in her lap. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The silence was total. Professor Williams was staring at Lily like he'd just seen a ghost. Judge Peterson had her hand over her heart. Mr. Chen was frozen, his pen hanging in midair. Then from somewhere in the middle of the audience, someone started clapping. Slowly at first. Then others joined. And then like a dam breaking, the entire hall erupted. People weren't just clapping. They were standing, shouting, cheering. The noise was deafening, washing over Lily in waves. She looked up, surprised, almost confused by the reaction. Her mom was crying openly now, clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. Her dad was on his feet, whistling, wiping his own eyes. The teenage competitors were standing too, even though Lily had just shown them up. Even though this 8-year-old had accomplished something they couldn't dream of, they were applauding. Some looked stunned. Some looked inspired. All of them were clapping. Professor Williams stood up from the judges' table. He was shaking his head slowly, a smile spreading across his face. He started clapping too, his hands coming together in slow, deliberate applause. Judge Peterson and Mr. Chen joined him, all three judges on their feet. The ovation went on and on. 30 seconds, a minute. People didn't want to stop. They just witnessed something special, something they'd talk about for years. Lily sat on the piano bench, small and quiet, looking out at all these standing people. She didn't quite understand what was happening. She'd just played the music the way it was supposed to be played, the way she'd heard it in her head. Wasn't that what you were supposed to do? Professor Williams walked onto the stage. He was still shaking his head, that amazed smile still on his face. He knelt down beside Lily just like he'd done before she played. "Lily," he said, and his voice was different now, softer, full of wonder. "How did you do that?" Lily thought about it for a moment. "I just listened to what the music wanted to say." Professor Williams laughed. Not a mocking laugh. A delighted one. "You just listened to what the music wanted to say," he repeated. He looked out at the audience, still applauding, then back at Lily. "In 43 years of teaching piano, I have never seen anything like what you just did." He stood and offered Lily his hand, helping her up from the bench. He raised their joined hands in the air like a referee declaring a winner, and the audience cheered even louder. Judge Peterson had come onto the stage too. She was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "That was extraordinary," she said. "Simply extraordinary." Lily's parents were making their way down the aisle, her mom half running. When she reached the stage, she swept Lily up in a huge hug. "I can't believe what I just saw," she whispered. "I can't believe you just did that. Was it okay?" Lily asked. Her dad laughed, a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Okay? Sweetie, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen." The applause finally started to die down. People were talking excitedly, the buzz of conversation filling the hall. Lily could hear fragments of what they were saying. "Did that really just happen? I got chills. That little girl is going to be famous one day. I need to tell everyone about this." Professor Williams waited for the noise to settle before speaking into his microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all just witnessed something very, very special." He looked at Lily, still held in her mother's arms. "The judges need a few moments to deliberate, but I think we all know we've just seen something remarkable." The audience applauded again. Shorter this time, but just as enthusiastic. As Lily walked off the stage with her parents, she felt lighter somehow. Like something heavy had been lifted off her shoulders. She'd done it. She'd played the music the way it was supposed to be played, and people had understood. They'd heard what she heard, felt what she felt. That was all she'd wanted. Lily sat backstage with her parents, drinking apple juice from a small box. Her hands were still tingling a little from playing. She could hear the judges talking in low voices on the other side of the curtain, their words muffled but urgent. Other competitors kept walking past, stealing glances at her. Some smiled. Others looked confused, like they were trying to figure out if what they'd just seen was real. One teenage girl, maybe 16 or 17, stopped and crouched down in front of Lily. "That was amazing," she said simply. "I've been playing since I was 4 and I couldn't do what you just did. Not even close." Thank you, Lily said quietly. The girl stood up and walked away, shaking her head in disbelief. How are you feeling? Her dad asked, rubbing her shoulder. Tired, Lily admitted. My arms feel like jelly. Her mom laughed softly. I bet they do. You just did something incredible, sweetie. The minutes ticked by. 5 minutes, then 10. The judges were taking longer than expected. Through the curtain, Lily could hear them still discussing, their voices animated. At one point, she heard Professor Williams say something that sounded like unprecedented, though she wasn't completely sure. Finally, after what felt like forever, the announcement came. Ladies and gentlemen, the judges have reached their decision. Will all competitors please return to the auditorium for the award ceremony? Lily's stomach did a flip. This was it. The moment everything had been building toward. But honestly, she didn't care much about winning anymore. She'd played that piece. She'd felt the music come alive under her fingers. That felt like enough. The auditorium was buzzing with energy as everyone filed back in. Parents were talking excitedly. Competitors looked nervous. The judges sat at their table, papers organized in neat stacks in front of them. Professor Williams stood and took the microphone. The room fell quiet. Thank you all for your patience, he began. This has been an exceptional competition. The level of talent we've seen today is truly impressive. Every single performer should be proud of what they accomplished. He paused, looking around the room. Before we announce the winners, I want to address what we all witnessed at the end. I've been a judge at this competition for 15 years. I've heard thousands of young pianists. I've taught at conservatories and music schools around the world. And I can say, without exaggeration, that what we saw today was extraordinary. His eyes found Lily in the audience. Lily performed a piece that was intentionally designed to challenge even professional musicians. It was meant to be nearly impossible for sight reading. 2 of us judges attempted it ourselves, and as you saw, we struggled significantly. A few people in the audience chuckled. What this young lady did was not just play the notes correctly. She interpreted them. She understood the emotional core of the piece. She demonstrated a level of musical intuition that I have rarely seen in my entire career, let alone in someone so young. He looked down at his papers, then back up. The judges debated for quite some time. This isn't a decision we made lightly. We've never had a situation quite like this before in the history of this competition. Lily's heart was pounding now. Her mom reached over and took her hand. Normally we announce 3rd place, then 2nd, then 1st. Today we're going to do things a bit differently. Professor Williams smiled. 3rd place goes to competitor number 52, David Rodriguez, for his beautiful interpretation of Rachmaninoff's Prelude. A tall teenage boy stood up. Looking thrilled, he made his way to the stage to accept his trophy and certificate. The applause was warm and genuine. 2nd place goes to competitor number 38, Jennifer Wong, for her technically flawless performance of Chopin's ballad. Another teenager, a girl with long black hair, practically floated to the stage. She was beaming. More applause. And now for 1st place, Professor Williams said. The room went completely silent. This year's Regional Youth Piano Competition Grand Prize winner, and the youngest recipient of this award in the competition's 32-year history, is competitor number 43, Lily Chen. The room exploded with applause. Not just polite competition applause. Real, genuine, thunderous applause. People were standing again, whistling, cheering. Lily sat frozen for a second. She'd won? She'd actually won? Her mom was crying again, hugging her. Her dad was laughing and clapping. Go on, he said gently. Go get your award. Lily walked to the stage on shaky legs. The applause continued. When she reached Professor Williams, he handed her a large trophy, much bigger than the ones given to 2nd and 3rd place. It was heavy in her small hands, but then he handed her something else. An envelope. This, he said, speaking into the microphone so everyone could hear, is something special. Lily, what you demonstrated today is a gift, a genuine rare gift, the kind that needs to be nurtured and developed. He paused for effect. Inside this envelope is a full scholarship to the Metropolitan Music Academy. All tuition, all lessons, all materials completely covered. You'll have access to world-class instructors and the finest facilities. If your parents agree, we'd like to start working with you as soon as possible. Lily's mom gasped from the audience. The Metropolitan Music Academy was famous. People came from all over the country to study there, and they were offering Lily a full scholarship. Additionally, Professor Williams continued, I'd like to personally offer my services as a mentor. I'd be honored to work with you, to help you develop your abilities. He knelt down again, looking at Lily eye to eye. You have something special, Lily. Something that can't really be taught, but it can be refined, enhanced, turned into something even more amazing than it already is. What do you say? Lily looked at the envelope in her hands, then at her parents in the audience. Her mom was nodding, tears streaming down her face. Her dad gave her a thumbs up, his eyes shiny. Okay, Lily said softly. I'd like that. The audience applauded again. Professor Williams stood and shook her hand, a gesture that felt very grown-up and formal. As Lily left the stage, trophy in one hand and envelope in the other people crowded around. Parents wanted to shake her hand. Competitors wanted to congratulate her. Someone said they were from a local newspaper and wanted to do a story. It was overwhelming, exciting, a little scary. Over the next few days, things got even more surreal. Someone had recorded Lily's performance on their phone and posted it online. By the next morning, the video had thousands of views. By the end of the week, it was in the hundreds of thousands. Then millions of comments poured in from all over the world. Professional musicians weighing in. Music teachers sharing it with their students. People saying they got chills watching it. Parents showing it to their kids as inspiration. A classical music magazine reached out for an interview. A morning talk show wanted her to perform. Music schools that Lily had never even heard of were sending letters, offering scholarships and special programs. Through it all, Lily tried to stay grounded. She went back to her regular school. She still had her lessons with Mrs. Patterson, though now she also had weekly sessions with Professor Williams at the Metropolitan Music Academy. She still practiced in her living room with the old cat sometimes walking across the keys. But something had changed. Not in Lily exactly, but in how people saw her, in what they believed was possible. Her story spread beyond just the music world. It became one of those stories people shared to make a point, about not judging by age, about trusting your instincts, about how sometimes the most extraordinary talents come in unexpected packages. 6 months later, Lily gave her first official concert. Not a competition, a real concert with tickets and programs and everything. The hall was packed. Some people had driven hours to hear her play. She performed several pieces, including, at everyone's request, that bonus challenge piece, the one that had started everything. When she finished it, the standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. After the concert, a reporter asked her how it felt to be called a genius. To be famous at just 8 years old, Lily thought about it carefully. I don't really think about those things, she said honestly. I just like playing piano. I like how the music makes me feel. And I like when other people can feel it too. What do you want to be when you grow up? The reporter asked. Lily smiled. I think I just want to keep playing. Keep learning. There's so much music in the world and I want to understand all of it. Years later, people would still talk about that day at the regional youth piano competition. The day an 8-year-old girl did what professional musicians couldn't. The day everyone learned that genius doesn't wait for age or experience or permission. But for Lily, it was simpler than all that. It was the day she learned to trust what she heard in her heart. The day she learned that sometimes, when you really listen to what the music wants to say, magic happens. And that magic, that connection between her and the piano and the notes on a page, stayed with her forever. Growing, deepening, turning into something beautiful that would touch millions of lives. All because of 3 seconds. 3 perfect seconds when a little girl's fingers found exactly the right keys and everything changed.